Hey, it's Ron McLean. Welcome to Hockey Talk on the Rock.
With Laura and Keith.
It's interesting.
So let's back up a second.
He played absolutely out of his mind.
It made no sense to me.
And now, here are your hosts.
Alright, we are back doing Hockey Talk on the Rock, episode 67, and a couple trades to talk about, some Canucks games. We went to a Canucks game.
Yeah.
It was great, so let's kick it off.
Yeah, so starting off, I guess, with the Canucks in Washington. Or was there a game before then that we haven't talked about? I don't think so. No, we didn't. I definitely didn't, because we did it on the night before. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. The Canucks played Washington. It was pretty sweet. We were there. The first two periods were, not ideal for the Canucks. They came out really flat, which has been a kind of a negative trend that's continued for throughout the year for the Canucks. They've had these slow starts, and in the last two games, you really noticed those slow starts again. But the Canucks did battle back in the Washington game in the third period, and they briefly had a 3-2 lead in that third period. A couple of, interesting calls made by referees in the last couple games too. They usually balance out throughout the season, but it's unfortunate the Canucks have gotten those calls recently.
Bad timing.
So anyway, the Caps end up tying it. Also a bit of a fluky goal, and Kuznetsov had the hat trick, and two of those goals were not great. So anyway, they tied it up, and then they went in overtime. But it was still an exciting game. I'm happy we were there. There were moments again in in the second intermission. I was thinking to myself, I really hope the Canucks have a good third period because otherwise it might be kind of a sad game to be at. But
yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. The crowd certainly was pumped, especially after those three goals in the first 5 minutes of the third. The first goal going off the stanchion and then off of Kuznetsov and in really sucked.
Yeah.
And there's not much you can do about it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was good. It was a good hockey game, and like you say, at least they battled back and got a point.
They did.
Not quite what happened with Tampa Bay, but
similar story. And again, Tampa, give them credit. They've won 2 Stanley Cups, but I just think they played that back-to-back situation almost perfectly. I mean, ideally they would have won in Edmonton and then done what they did against Vancouver, but they knew they were going to be flat. They played a ton of games recently, so they start Vasilevsky in those back-to-back games to basically be like, okay, not back-to-back games, sorry, they start him at the end of the back-to-back, basically to be like, okay, get us a win. And that they played very hard in the first 10 minutes of the game and then basically weren't there for the rest of it. And Vasilevsky did his thing, and again, Canucks got kind of called for a couple stupid things. Again, I mean, it all kind of balanced out in that game, but
the quick whistle on the Garland
quick whistle
goal
was bad.
Was a bummer.
Yeah. So they didn't get anything out of that game, but they're still very much alive as of today in this playoff race. So it's keep on keeping on, and the trade deadline is coming up here next Monday. So
big game against New Jersey tonight, trying to break the 7-year slump.
New Jersey and then
Detroit.
So those are 2 winnable games, and the Canucks have to be dialed in, and they have to be ready to start these games because, I mean, those are probably teams you could see them coming back against, but don't put yourself in those positions, and unfortunately they've done that. So hopefully we see some fight kind of right out of the gate from the Canucks tonight and on Thursday.
Yeah, hope for a couple big games, and like you say, with a couple other teams, mainly like Vegas struggling right now.
Yeah, Vegas is struggling.
There's opportunity. So, like you alluded to, the deadline for trades is coming up on Monday. Today being Tuesday, so we're 7 days away. Sorry, and we've got 3 trades we can talk about since the last time we talked.
Yeah.
The first one was the Ducks selling off Josh Manson to the Avalanche. For a pretty decent sounding defenseman prospect and a second round pick.
Yeah, next year. And again, the Ducks retained half the salary, which is big for Colorado because they can still do stuff, especially because Landeskog is on LTIR. And we'll get more into the Avs in a second here, but it does seem like they're clearing up some space. But yeah, I really like this deal for Colorado. They know this is kind of their year to go for it.
Yeah.
They've been saying that for a few years now, but this really is the time for them. I think Landeskog going and getting that surgery, like Bietska was talking about this, he wouldn't have done this unless he knew he was going to be able to come back and play because of what big a season it is for the Avs. So I like the pickup for them. I mean, I think Anaheim got a pretty good return for Manson.
Yeah, totally.
Especially as a rental. And they, again, are indicating that they're willing to sell. So there's a seller for sure.
Yeah, who's right there with the Canucks in the standings. Who's right there with
the Canucks. So, yeah, it's good news for the Canucks.
And then I see they signed the defense prospect right away too. So.
And yeah, so anyway, I thought it was a good deal, really, for both teams. I'll probably give the win to Colorado just because they're going for it.
Yeah, I'd give the win to Colorado now, but I feel like down the road, the Helleson and the pick are going to turn out really well for Anaheim.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
And then what was the second one?
Colorado wasn't done.
Okay, that was another one. Tyson Yost going to Minnesota for Nico Sturm.
Yeah.
Who I thought when I first read it that Sturm was younger, but he's actually older.
He's older, but he's not signed to next year, which is, again, part of the reason he's cheaper.
Yeah.
So the Avs, again, clearing up some cap space, don't have to re-sign him. He'll be a depth forward for them, again, unless there's got to be another move coming, which is why they're clearing up that cap space. I would assume Sakic's got something big up his sleeves, but I like the move for Minnesota, who, as you've mentioned multiple times, needs center depth. And Yost can play center. He's
cost controlled for a couple more years too, isn't he?
Yeah, which is important for Minnesota too, because they have that cap problems that are gonna come to them. I mean, these are two divisional teams that traded with one another, which is an interesting dynamic. But
especially since they're both in playoff spots.
Yeah. I do think, like, Yost, he was kind of a top prospect, and he hasn't lived up to his potential yet. He's been a decent player for the Avs, but he hasn't been anything, like, amazing. So we'll see if maybe his new start in Minnesota kind of inspires him to be what he was drafted to be, kind of thing. But
yeah, and he could work out as a depth guy, like you say. You have to think now what Minnesota's going to do. They got to go for something.
They've got to go for something. And I don't know what it's going to be, but again, they're a team that they're having to go all in this year based on their cap situation for the next few years. And yeah.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
But going back to your Philly boys, Giroux is going to play his 1000th game this week.
On Thursday,
On Thursday, so all signs are that he would be willing to move after that 1000th game, and it sounds like he prefers Florida. I don't know, again, with Florida's cap situation, how they make that work. But I'd say that Colorado has got to be at least a possibility still, and I know you think Minnesota, so we'll kind of tie the three teams all together.
Well, I mean, I feel like there's going to be at least one deal where Detroit or Arizona hops in as a broker and takes half of half or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like Colorado and Minnesota are going to land Giroux and Hurdle now. I just feel convinced of it. I don't know who's going to go where, but like it just makes sense for both teams for different reasons.
Yeah, and I was listening actually on the 31 Thoughts, and they were talking about Hurdle, and the kind of feeling that the league is getting is that San Jose is going to sign him. But again, I don't see how that's a smart move for San Jose, so I'll kind of believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the feeling that's out there right now. But yeah, I say he gets moved too, and both those teams that you just mentioned would be great fits too. I guess the other kind of trade speculation that's not related to the Canucks would be that, like, the Leafs now, after their appearance on the weekend of the, we'll see, it looks like they're going to be looking for a goalie. And there was some interesting stuff that came out that maybe they'd be willing to move Nylander.
Wow.
And I don't know. I feel like that would be very drastic. But my gut feeling with the Leafs is if they get a goalie, it's going to be Varlamov. And that's just a random gut feeling.
Yeah.
So.
I think I read somewhere that Varlamov said no to putting them to taking them off the no trade list.
Okay, so interesting.
Yeah, but I was just talking to my friend at hockey last night, and he's a big Leafs fan, and he's like, we need a goalie, but like there's no goalies available that are like a real big upgrade. Like Fleury's going to cost a lot, and he hasn't played great this year, but he's in Chicago.
Yeah.
Korpisalo is not really an upgrade.
No.
You know, and then there's like the Dallas goalies, and like how much is Holtby really going to be an upgrade? And
yeah, and I don't know if they'd be willing to move him now that
Kudobin's hurt. Yeah.
So again, there's lots of stuff there. I can't see the Rangers moving Georgiev now at this point of the season.
And they'd be selling low on him too.
Yeah. So who else is there? Halak.
Exactly, right?
But
like,
I don't
so
see
tough.
that Halak would be an upgrade. So that's why I was like, for me, if I'm the Leafs, that's who I'm targeting would be Varlamov, unless you go John Gibson. But again, I don't know.
Yeah.
What the price for that would be.
I told my Leafs friend.
Yeah.
I said honestly, I see them going for like Justin Braun as a defense out of Philly.
Yeah.
And then maybe if they can make the cap work, I can also see them being like getting Raquel to go on a line with Tavares and Nylander because they're kind of slumping a bit.
Yeah.
But I was like, I agree. They should go for a goalie. They probably want a goalie, but like based on the market, like I don't know though. I don't know if they're gonna do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's an interesting thing to the players because I'm sure they have to be feeling like, okay, we need a save, right? Like. But very fascinating situation playing out in Toronto. Like Edmonton is a similar situation except for the fact that Koskinen's actually been okay for the last little while. So I feel like they're probably more willing to go into the playoffs and be like, this is our guy kind of thing right now and we'll fix it in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an easier sell, right, to the players too if you have a guy that's making saves versus, Toronto, who, like, even before Campbell was hurt, he was not playing well, and then Mrazek has been just awful, like...
Right.
Yeah, so, anyway, that's my feelings on Leafs goaltending situation. But.
And then, I mean, I've got, there's rumors now, like, everyone knows Ben Sherratt's going to get traded out of Montreal. I read today that, like, the deal's pretty well done to go to St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what that return's going to be. I read it was big. And if you think that, Manson got a second and a pretty good defensive prospect, like...
Sherratt's going to get a lot.
Montreal's going to get a first and... Something good. Like, St. Louis has some good young guys that haven't quite made it up yet.
Yeah.
Ah, man, it'd be interesting. I don't know if that's the piece that they really need, but, like, yeah, you got to go for it, I guess.
Yeah, and again, St. Louis, like, I feel like any team in the West has just got to kind of go for it this year. If you think you have a decent shot, just because it's been so open, and if someone, like, Colorado's the heavy favorite, right, in the West, but you never know, upsets happen every year, and if someone knocks off Colorado and you're just, like, the next best team, you're almost given a berth in the final,
totally,
right?
and I mean, Kemper gets hurt, and Colorado's a different looking team all of a sudden, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I understand St. Louis pumping up that defense basically if they can and just saying we're gonna give it, we have our core here, we have our young guys like Kyra and stuff who are playing very well this year, this might be our last chance at a shot at it, so we're going all in kind of thing. I don't blame them, but other than that, we had the Matthews suspension, which also came out of the not the Winter Classic, the Heritage Classic.
Seems to be a very divisive topic in the sense of, like, I think everyone agrees that yes, get suspended for that, but also people are very pissed off that, like, how many other cross checks have we seen like that get fines and not suspensions? Yeah,
and I mean, is it the double-edged sword of it being Matthews? Where it's like it's someone that they're all gonna watch and they're gonna see, and I mean if that's the way you're going with the league, I support it. I think it's probably a better league if you take out that crap after the whistle, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It was probably harsh. My feeling was that I would have said a game, but because of what they've done in the league, it will probably be a fine. And then I saw the 2 games and I was like, wow, that's, it's quite a bit.
It was surprising, like I say, because
for a guy with no record, too.
Yeah, right? And it seems like the precedence has been set before for very similar ones to be just fine. So, yeah, I think people were surprised, but I don't think it's wrong.
No, I think I'm fine with it. Just keep it. That's the standard then.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Right?
For sure.
But yeah, we had that. Was there any other big league news?
No, not really. I mean, we could sit here and talk rumors all day, but no, I think that was mainly it, right?
Yeah, I think that's the majority of the stuff.
So yeah, we'll get together and we'll do one either like right before the deadline or right after the deadline and kind of see what it's like after all the smoke settles and where we're at. And the Canucks will have played 3 more games by the deadline.
Yeah.
So we'll have a better idea of what's going to happen with them moving forward. It's an exciting time of year.
Yeah.
It's a great time of year.
Yeah.
So, anything more?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. It's been another episode of Hockey Talk on the Rock. That's Laura. I'm Keith, and we'll be back for episode 68.
Woo!